All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for 2021's first episode of Fintech Fireside Asia. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, it's a monthly online talk show where we invite some of the leading thinkers in the fintech space and sit them down for a casual chat. Before I introduce you to the guest of the day, quickly like to point out that we are open for sponsorship opportunities. Feel free to reach out to me to discuss further. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Walter de Oude, who is the Group CEO of SingLife. SingLife recently completed its merger transaction with Aviva Singapore, which was the largest insurance deal in Singapore, valued at 3.2 billion Sing dollars, roughly the equivalent of 2.4 billion US dollars. Welcome to the show, Walter. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Vincent, great to be on the show.
Glad to have you. Now, Walter, you've had quite an illustrious career, from being the CEO of HSBC Insurance to founding SingLife, which was the first local insurers in decade to receive a life insurance license in Singapore. Walk us through that journey and talk to us about how you got here.
Yeah, sure, Vincent. I mean, my background really, as you say, I was with HSBC many years ago, and took a view in about 2014 that the world needed a better kind of life insurance company. We just found that technology was growing at such a fast pace that the insurance industry just wasn't keeping up. And we thought that if we could use some of the technological capabilities that we currently have in the marketplace and use that in an insurance context, we can actually create a much, much, much better experience for customers. And that was really just the starting point of what we were trying to do. Our view was that the existing insurance industry wasn't really meeting the needs of individuals, and that we could just do a better job if we worked pretty hard at it and just made it happen. So that was the idea. The hard part, really, when you're doing anything fintechy or anything starting up is getting started. Yeah, and of course you can have a great idea and a great business plan and all that stuff, but actually to get going is pretty hard. And we had a lot of things happening into trying to get started up. To start a life insurance company from nothing is quite a difficult thing to do. So it took us almost 3 years to get going. So it took 3 years to raise the capital, get the licenses, and build the tech that we needed to do, which was about 2 years longer than I thought it was going to take to get started. But we got there in the end. They say in all things startup world, they say there's rules of threes that applies, right? One is it's going to take you 3 times longer to get started than what you thought it was going to take you. You're going to work 3 times harder than you've ever worked in your entire life. And you're going to make 3 times less money at the end of it than what you thought you were going to make. In this case, I can tell you that I definitely worked 3 times harder, and I definitely took 3 times longer. But the other result hasn't yet come out yet.
Preach, man, preach.
Yeah.
But which kind of begs the question of why you would transition to a relatively safe and stable career in the financial service line and kind of jump out and start this on your own.
Yeah, I think it comes down to what you want to do with your life. And I'd had a long career as an actuary in banking, in insurance, reinsurance companies, and you kind of get to a point, I got to a point where I thought, well, there must be more than just this. There must be an opportunity to do something great, something wonderful, something that you can build, that you can be proud of, that can last beyond you. And to take a chance. And I'm always been a kind of person that likes to build things and try things and see what we can do. And that's what we decided to do. So we raised the capital, we built the business, got the regulatory licenses, built some phenomenally good tech. And I was really lucky that I had a group of friends who were with me from the beginning to help build it all together. And with technology startups and all of these, it is vitally important that you have a group of people who are connected and on the same wavelength about what you're trying to do, because you can do a huge amount of stuff very, very fast if you're on that same path. But as you say, the journey has been a mammoth one. So we've gone from that startup, 2 guys in an office, to 10 guys, to 100 guys, now to 1.5 or almost 1,100 guys with the combined Aviva business. It's been a really, really exciting journey and lots of cool things to come.
I mean, it's been phenomenal, right? Because SingLife existed more or less the same time as Fintech News Singapore. And, when we first covered the story, I was like, oh, okay, it's a sort of an insurtech startup. And then we see the amount of funding you've raised to the acquisitions of the Zurich live business and also the merger. So it has been quite an interesting journey, even from where we're sitting and observing. So, you mentioned that you were looking at the technology marketplace that's available, looking at how there are problems to be fixed in the insurance market. So when you set up SingLife specifically, what were the gaps that you were hoping to fill within the insurance market?
Yeah, so we just saw that the general use of technology in the insurance space was just way behind other industries. If you look at the
Mm,
the other technology landscapes
mhm,
in finance, the leadership position has always been in payments. So payments has
mm,
taken the
mm,
front seat
for
in,
sure.
in everything fintech, and in banking is probably
Mm,
a cycle behind that, and insurance is
mm,
probably even 2 or 3 cycles behind that in terms of its innovative capability. The insurance businesses, the incumbents, have all got really old, difficult old systems and difficult to move. So we thought, well, let's just build it fresh and new. And if we've got this clean piece of paper, we can just go faster. That's as simple as that. You can't always foresee exactly what you're going to do in the future, but you just know that if you have the right people and the right tools and the right attitude and the right ambition, uh, great things would happen. We never knew that we would be acquiring Zurich Life within 1 year of operations, and we'd never dreamed of doing a big merger like what we've just done with Aviva within 3 years or just after 3 years of operations. So that the sky's the limit of what you can do. So when you came back to the core principles, what is the problem that we were trying to solve? And our
mm,
problem was just very simple. People hate insurance companies. Simple as that. How can you make insurance cool? How can you
mm,
just do something better that you can say, yeah, I'm insured with SingLife and I'm happy about it, and I get a great experience, and it's cool and it's tech and it just works, and then you build products that fit that particular philosophy. I'll give you an example of the SingLife account which we built. This is stuff that never existed before, and we never dreamed of it in our early days. All we thought was, let's just find great products that we can apply our minds to and bring those to customers. The SingLife account is a great example of just looking at a customer need. What customers really wanted was a decent place to save their money, but be able to access it at any point in time. It's a simple concept, right? I mean, people get a rubbish return from the banks. You put your money in the bank, you get no interest on it, really. Yeah. How can we just give a better solution than that? It's not a real deep problem statement. It's just people need more and they need the money to work a little bit harder. So we just decided, well, how can we do that? Well, we built an insurance plan that just gives you easy access and liquidity. We became a Visa issuer just because we thought that's a
mm,
great way to get your money out anytime. And so we have SingLife accounts and cards. And so now we're an issuer of these kinds of things, so SingLife account cards. And you get access to your money anytime. So we've basically been able to transcend some of the boundaries of financial services. So it's not just an insurance operation now, but it's more holistic in the financial services space. And that innovation and that kind of thought process is stuff that you never dreamed of in the beginning. You just kind of figure it out as you go along, with the right kind of shareholders who are willing to back you as people as you build businesses out. And that's where the capital has flowed and the capital has come in, because people have seen that we are trying to do things that are new to the market and are going to continue to
mm.
do those kinds of things.
So your SingLife account, if I remember correctly, was launched sometime in 2019, right? During the previous
We,
FinTech festival, was it?
yeah, we announced it in 2019, where we were just
Right.
doing the wait listings and the signups and everything, but
Yeah.
we launched it officially in just at the end of the first quarter of 2020.
Mm. How have
And
the
during that
signups been?
time,
Sorry,
we've
carry on.
got about just almost
Mhm.
80,000 customers and about $1 billion of new assets. So
Mm.
it worked very, very quickly. It worked actually so well that we've actually had to push pause on it for a little while. With the Aviva SingLife coming together, we just have to
Mm.
manage the capital of the two firms as they come together. So we just push pause for a little while on new business, and then we'll just turn it on again when we're ready with some new features and some other cool stuff that's coming with it.
Yeah. That's a pretty interesting idea because from my observation, I have not really seen any other insurer from this part of the world, at least, issuing a sort of a Visa or Mastercard for the users. Maybe we can kind of jump back to that later and talk about what other product innovations that you have in mind, you have in the pipeline. But
Sure.
meanwhile, I just kind of wanted to go back to talking about your merger with Aviva, right? So, what kind of changes do you anticipate? What kind of changes can we expect to see post SingLife and Aviva merger?
Yeah. So the deal thesis in the beginning was really just to take these two complementary businesses. These businesses don't really compete with one another at all. And our job is to take all of the technology and capability and excellence on the consumer side of the business, which SingLife has been so good at building, and
Mm,
combine that with the deep advisory, deep product, and
mm,
large scale of business that the Aviva business has. And if we can take these two complementary pieces and bring them together, we can create a much more pleasant customer experience for everybody using deeper, more stable and long-term product sets. It would have taken SingLife on its own 10
mm,
years to get as big as an Aviva business would have been. And this just kind
mm,
of allows us to leapfrog the strategy of the combined businesses hugely. So
mm,
we have these phenomenal ingredients. We have great technology on the SingLife side, great customer engagement on the SingLife side. We have great products, great advisory, and a deep, well-established customer base with the Aviva side. And if we can bring these two things together, we can actually do something wonderful. That's been the basis on why we're coming together. Now
mm.
the proof is in the pudding in actually making these things come to reality
For
as
sure.
we bring the teams together and come together
Yeah.
around a combined purpose, as I've just said.
But I
And
guess
the
one of
ambition,
the sorry, Karen.
sorry, I just said, ambition really is for the SingLife or the Aviva SingLife business going forward is to build a homegrown or
Mm,
regional, being Southeast Asian
mm,
regional, technologically enabled, customer centric, profitable financial services company. It's as simple as that. And then I'm using the word financial services company and not an insurance company because we want to do more than just what we're currently doing, and we want to do that extensively on a technology leading mobile first basis. Simple as that.
all
And if
the
we can just stick to that strategy, we'll be successful.
all the important keywords are there, right? So I guess one of the things about what makes an organization successful, what makes an organization sustainable, a lot of it boils back down to culture, right? So
Yeah.
obviously, when SingLife was started as Singapore Life, you have your small founding team, and then you've grown to a large team, and you've acquired Zurich, and now you're merging with Aviva. So in the midst of all these transitions and changes and expansion in team sizes, how do you kind of maintain the core that is SingLife to kind of carry on as you move into the next phase of SingLife's growth?
Yeah, I mean, clearly we have culture as a challenge that we have to deal with, and we realize that we have a distinctive SingLife culture, and we have a distinctive Aviva culture. And bringing these two together, it doesn't mean that you're then going to have the SingLife culture is going to be the culture, or the Aviva culture is going to be the culture. The reality is that you build something new. There is a new culture, a
Mm,
third culture, which is designed to take the best of everything. What we're really, very fortunate with in the Aviva SingLife businesses coming together is actually the cultures of the two firms are quite similar. Yeah. If you look at the history of Aviva went through a
mm,
really difficult time in its history when it lost its distribution of the DBS franchise, which was at that time making up 60% of its distribution. And Aviva and its Aviva people had to completely re-engineer their business to re-transform itself and come up with new ways of surviving or flourishing. And they did that really well. They built one of the best financial advisory businesses in town, with great deep penetration through some of the affinity groups that are available in Singapore, and they've done a phenomenal job. So that culture of challenge, that culture of let's win, let's beat this, let's come together for excellence, is there across both organizations, and we can live and build off that. There's also a joint mindset around improving the lives of people, and a
mm,
deep sense of we can do better things for people. And that's not just a lofty corporate statement. It's actually, these are the things that people come and work for us because they also want to be a part of something where they know that what they're building is actually in the best interests of people. And it's very clear that these kinds of cultural attributes exist across the combined organizations. And as we build this third culture together, we will take these core elements and try and build on them and make sure that these things exist. Of course, when you bring two companies together, there's always a bit of um, integration, and these things are part of the course. But we just need to just work through it as we are currently doing, and we'll come out on top.
I think that no doubt will be good advice for a lot of the startups that's still in the early stages. That's hopefully eventually going to grow to that size. Moving along, I think on the topic of SingLife account, I think you've got a fan over here. Ben is a big fan of your SingLife product, so I guess you
Thanks,
guys have
Ben.
done some
Like a
good
lot.
job there. So I just kind of want to take a step back and look at the insurance sector as a whole. No doubt 2020 has been an insane year. I mean, the amount of changes, the amount of things that's been accelerated is at speeds that we've not seen before, right? So what
Yeah.
is your outlook for 2021? And what's your outlook for hopefully a post-COVID-19 world? What do you see for the insurance sector?
Yeah, so 2020 for us was actually a brilliant year. I mean, we've just pulled off one of the biggest transactions in the region. We've launched our SingLife accounts, which was phenomenally successful. We've gone from absolute strength to strength. All of the things that we thought about 10 or 5 years ago around the digitization of insurance, all of that stuff came perfectly into play because everything was digital, right? It's COVID helped. So we were set for victory through the course of 2020, and we flourished. We really did well, and I'm super proud of our team and the people that brought it together. Looking forward to 2021 for there's two things. One is on the industry, and one is on the on SingLife or Aviva SingLife going forward. I guess the industry itself is will continue on. In uncertain times, insurance always does well. It's simple as that. And there is always a little bit of when the markets are going up constantly, investment funds and self trading tends to have a higher focus on customers. But when there is uncertainty, insurance does well. So I think the industry will continue to do well because I think we're actually in this. Yes, things are going up, but people are uncertain about it. So therefore, they're still looking at how they can manage the two. So insurance does very well. I think that the advisory nature of our business is still growing. I think people will always still want to have advice. Yes, some people would want to do things digitally and direct, but most people still want to have an advisor to talk to about their funds or their investments and insurances. But we allowed, if you want to do it direct, you can do it direct. If you want to do it through an advisor, you can do it through an advisor. And I think those trends will still continue. I think the market itself will be a bit more innovative. Some of the stuff that SingLife has done, of course, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. So we're going to see some of our competitors start to copy the things that we've done, and that's just ordinary. So I do foresee a little bit of that happening. And then it comes down to Aviva SingLife, and as Ben Go pointed out, is looking forward to cross sell and new things to come. We've just launched a product on the back of our SingLife account called Grow. Very simple. So you can put your money in an interest bearing or a crediting rate bearing account, and which gives you kind of a guaranteed rate for a while. And then if you want to put it into a higher growth market linked product called Grow, you just swipe the money right and off you go. So if any of you are lucky enough to have a SingLife account at the moment, I'm always interested in your feedback and how we can improve these things. It's an evolution. We're trying to make it better and better all the time. So I think in that sense, for 2021 for us on the Aviva SingLife space, it's all about how do we manage the experience of our existing customer base. Now we've got the 100,000 odd SingLife customers and 1.5 million odd Aviva customers, bringing them together, and how can we improve the experience of these customers as we consolidate them in Singapore over the next couple of months. That's our big challenge.
Very cool. Now, I just wanted to remind the audience who are tuning in live, you are welcome to ask questions. Feel free to type it into the YouTube comments and we'll try to address it as we go along. Now, you were talking a little bit about how, it's been a phenomenal year in 2020. A lot of transactions really push digital forward. Do you foresee a future where society fully embraces the idea of purchasing life insurance digitally, particularly because life insurance is such a process where you do require advice, and then you pair that with investment products. Um, do you see that happening? And if that does happen, how do you imagine the incumbents would kind of transition from a very reliant agent network kind of model to a fully digital one?
Yeah, I don't ever foresee that people will migrate
Mm,
fully to a
mm,
digital buying or purchasing behavior. And
mm,
there's a distinction here to be had between
mm,
purchasing and
mhm.
managing. Yeah. So
Mm, 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 mm,
it's like opening a bank account and using a bank account, right? So you can open or apply for an insurance policy, and that's a bit complicated. But once that's in place and train, and you're gonna expand it out and manage it, that can be done more digitally. So most people don't open bank accounts on their telephones, but they do
mm,
manage their bank accounts on their telephones. And I see insurance ultimately going the same way. You will manage your insurances via your telephone. You manage everything on your telephone these days anyway. So why not your insurance? But a new insurance relationship or that initiation is probably going to still be advised, especially for a new customer, and for an existing customer, there'll be a little bit more and more
mm,
ease of access, provided that there's comfort with the brand. And we found it quite neatly on the SingLife side is as soon as people experience the ease of the product and see what actually the stuff, oh, it's pretty cool and it works and it's slick and I kind of like it, and then they're a little bit more excited to try new things that SingLife has to offer. And that'll be the trend as we go
mm,
forward. I think the whole industry will try and follow.
mm. So I think there's another follow-up question from Ben here, which is related to what we're talking about right now. So Ben was kind of asking, uh, through your kind of M&A activity with Aviva, which is, as you said, is very strong in the advisory channel, right? Is there anything that kind of counterintuitive in terms of the original idea of a pure digital distribution for SingLife?
Not at all. It's completely normal. If you have a bank account, and if you're lucky enough to have
Mm,
a prestige or a premier bank account and your own dedicated relationship manager,
mm,
you have a relationship manager and you can manage your bank account through your digital app, right? It's the same thing. So in insurance space, the FA community is always going to be the advisor to the Aviva SingLife universe, right? We have our own FA
mm,
communities, we have PIS, AFA, in a wholly owned type of environment, but we also interact with all of the FA firms around town, and are very much appreciative of the business
mm,
that they bring into the group. And those relationships between the FA advisor and the customer are sacrosanct. There is that the advisor is the advisor to the customer, and even in a digital landscape, the advisor will be there in the digital world. So that if there is an advisory need, then the customer can go to that particular advisor.
mm,
The digital space is just as I said, around how do I make life easier? How do I facilitate a better experience for customers in their management of their financial services piece, right? So where people want advice and where they have a relationship with a financial advisor,
mm,
the tech is there to enhance that relationship. But where people want to manage it on their own, or just use advisors for some things and use things on their own for other things, then that should also be available to them. My job again is just to make the system
mm,
pretty straightforward and easy. And the FA community has been quite responsive and comfortable with this, because there is no conflict at all. We actually want as
mm.
much of our customers to be advised as possible, because that actually strengthens the relationship over time.
I mean, at the end of the day, those two aren't mutually exclusive, right? Whatever touch points that
They're
your
not.
customer prefer to be interacting with, and as a company, if you provide that, then you get more satisfied customer at the end of the day.
Correct.
So, another thing that I kind of wanted to touch on, obviously insurance is a extremely capital intensive business, and over these years, your company is actually raised a very impressive total funding of roughly over 170 million US dollars. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I think, a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of startups are also struggling a little bit with fundraising. And what kind of tips do you have for them in terms of successfully raising funds?
Yeah, you're right. On the first point, I mean, insurance companies need a huge amount of capital. As you can see, we've had to raise as we grow, just because that's what it needs. And ultimately, now with the Aviva SingLife transaction, the capital raise on top of that to complete that transaction to be 3.2 billion has raised a lot more in new money and in some debt structures and overall structuring, which puts the combined value at such a big deal. So capital raising has always been part of what I do. Again, I'm quite lucky in that I've got a team of people around me who are awesome in what they do, in building the business, running the business, and doing all the things, which has meant that I can spend quite a lot of time in managing, the capital of the business and all of the things that have to go along with that. So your second question is about what would I recommend for people looking to raise capital? I think the secret for SingLife was just two things. Right? Number one is storytelling, and number two is momentum. Right? You have to have a story that inspires capital to follow. If the story is not compelling enough, then the capital is unconvinced. So the story has to be compelling. It has to be a let's reach for the stars story, and if we hit the moon, that's good enough. Yeah, we have to tell the story about the potential of the stars. Yeah, and yeah, investors need to look into your eyes and believe that you're the guy that's going to deliver it. Yeah, so that storytelling component is vital. But the second piece behind that is momentum. It's not good enough to tell a story with nothing. You have to have momentum. It doesn't mean that you have to have a perfect product. It doesn't mean that you have to have product everything. You just have to have momentum, because product gets better and better over time. And you then find that these two things are connected, right? The better the story that you tell, the better your momentum, because people start to believe the story, not just the investors, but also the users, and the more people that use it, the better you can improve the product, and the better the momentum, the more capital, the more improvement, the better the experience, and it's this constant evolution of improvement and greatness as it comes along. So those two things are fundamental: storytelling, momentum. If you can write a story about those two, you will be able to raise more capital.
I guess momentum is important. Otherwise, without momentum, a story is just a fairy tale, right?
Correct.
All right. So we have another question from the audience over here. Let me try to bring it up over there. So the audience is asking, what is the expectation of the regulator in ensuring product suitability, continuous education, recourse, and how do you demonstrate that using digital solutions? So I guess it's referring to the kind of products that you offer, and if something goes wrong, what's the recourse? And,
I got you. But insurance is one of the most the highly regulated industry there is, right? And when we started SingLife, people said, "Well, why would you do it in Singapore? Singapore is one of the most highly regulated countries in the region." And we said, "Well, it's exactly for that reason that we wanted to be established in Singapore, given the certainty that our MAS regulator gives to, and the comfort that it gives to our ultimate customers." Because regulations and complying with regulations is important. But of course, on the flip side, we have been very fortunate in Singapore to be working with one of the most open-minded, yet customer-protecting regulators I've ever worked with in my life. And these guys have been fantastic in support of our business as we've grown. That's not to say that everything that we've done has fitted super neatly in the regulations. We've had to have a lot of open discussions with the regulators to say, we see a certain customer need. We're building something that we think is going to be useful, how do we fit this into a regulatory environment which may not have foreseen this? And SingLife Account was exactly one of these things. As you said, we're the first insurance company ever to be a visa issuer at the same time, and these things needed to be regulated as we went. And so the trick with in our history was constant regulatory engagement. Everything that we did was meticulously presented and discussed with the regulator as we progressed, so that we could make sure that we didn't run into trouble later on. And that permeates not just from the product, but also the tech and the methodology and all that other stuff. I remember 5 years ago when we started, right? I mean, just the idea of doing KYC in a digital mechanic when the stuff didn't exist 5 years ago. We had to spend a huge amount of time with our regulator to try and get comfort around the efficacy of the digital tools that we were using to do that. And so this means to do everything. We cannot make a mistake in this stuff. You have to do everything by the book. And if the book doesn't have a specific guidance, then you have to go and discuss it. And that's the way we've been able to work with our regulator here in Singapore, and the outcome has been fabulous.
I think it also helps if your regulator is open to this kind of discussion and you sit them down and really engage them in terms of what you're trying to do, what is the value proposition. And I guess the tip for a lot of the audience that's tuning in is just constant engagement with your regulators. So we have another question here from the audience that's kind of linked to what I wanted to ask you as well. So Hanson's asking about your regional ambitions, and as some of the audience members know, like SingLife has also recently expanded to Philippines as well. So my question, I guess, is what other Southeast Asian markets are you eyeing? Do you have any acquisition plans in these markets?
Yeah, as I said earlier, our ambition is to be a regional player. Right? We've already got a business in the Philippines. We have been actively looking for other regional opportunities over the last while. But I guess the Aviva transaction, which we've in the process of, is a monster. So we do need to just spend a little bit of time to just batten that down and get it. So that'll take a bit of focus in the short term. But our ambition is big, right? We do say that we want to be around the region. We do have a technology capability that allows us to do that. So our ambition is great. Yeah.
Cool. So I guess for now you're unable to really kind of share with us which specific markets, but definitely it's in the pipeline to look at other Southeast Asian countries.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Very cool. So just to kind of go back into some of the products that you guys have been working on, you have your SingLife account, you have the Grow, which you've introduced. I've also read somewhere that you've introduced some sort of layoff benefits as well. Can you walk us through some of the other more interesting products that you guys have launched in SingLife, and what are the interesting things that you're working on in the pipeline?
That's right. So on the SingLife side of the business, there is the thing that we're quite happy and excited about is a product called Grow. And the very simple thing here is that we believe that most people are a little bit lazy in how they manage their assets or their savings. And so we just want to make it super simple, right? So if you put some money in a SingLife account and you want to actually put some away for a longer term, all you need to do is decide, are you a higher risk, a medium risk, or a lower risk kind of person? And we use some very, very fancy tech to select and optimize a portfolio which meets your specific risk characteristics. You don't have to really worry about fund selection, all that stuff. We do all of that in the background. We've got a list of 1 million funds that uses a whole bunch of both human and tech to select, from in terms of expected future and low volatility based on risk profiles. So we can just make your investing part of your financials straightforward. Yeah, we find that so many people are always just waiting to see, well, shall I invest in this or shall I invest in that? So this is the SingLife account, and its Grow is for people that are not gamblers. They just want to make their money work harder, and they don't want to really worry about if they've made a wrong decision. And it works really well in some cases, because we've also said to people, well, even if you are looking for something better out there, don't wait, just put it into a SingLife Grow, because you can always take it out without any penalty anyway. So just make your money do something, and we're finding that that's actually working really well. There's a bit of UX stuff that we're doing on that, which is
Mm.
taking a bit more time than I'd like, but it's getting better and better all the time. On the Aviva side of the business, there are some very exciting products coming to bear. Aviva is one of the three only companies that is able to offer the My Care or care products, a bit more around longer term health. And that's being proven incredibly successful in the FA community and through some of our affinity partners. We are looking to bring some of those together into the digital and mobile platforms as we build it all out. So that's come through over there, and obviously there's been an innovation around just the pure protection plans, the cancer products on both sides, and as we bring these together, as we merge, the experiences of these will just get better and better.
Very cool. We definitely look forward to those updates and running some of these stories as well. Now, we are running short on time, so I'll take one more question from the audience and then ask you another, and then we'll wrap up the session for today. So we
Sure.
have an insurtech entrepreneur here in the group as well. Malik is asking about the regulatory engagement, because when you deal with regulators, obviously with some regulators, there's a duality between those who are in the supervision side and those who are in the side that's pushing for innovation as well, right? So I guess the question from Malik is, how do you
Yeah.
win over this supervisory side in terms of some of the more wild or interesting ideas that you guys are working on?
I think the idea is openness and transparency and an integrity around doing the right thing. Right, the supervisory side is clearly looking to make sure that we as fintechs don't make mistakes, and that we do things in the best interests of general population, and that we're doing it in a safe way, in a protected way. The regulators are very forward looking, or would like to be, especially in Singapore. It is difficult for regulators, though, to um, to take risk, because that's not how they are. That's not how they're built, right? So it does mean a lot of open engagement and a lot of if there is a question from a regulatory side of, no, you can't do this, and if it's quite okay to go back to the regulator and say, well, why not? And if there is to have a proper discussion and say, well, if something is in the best interest of customers, if it can be managed in a safe, secure, stable, systemic way, then I would find that the supervisory sides of the regulators would look to support. But it does mean a lot of engagement, and I think face-to-face engagement is always important if you can. Because the regulator needs to not only just trust what you're doing, they need to trust you. Yeah.
Very cool. So we are unfortunately running out of time. I'd like to thank you for joining us and also thank the audience for tuning in. But before we go, Walter, do you have any advice for the aspiring insurtech entrepreneurs around among the group here, and any final words you want to say to the audience before you go?
Yeah, it's tough, guys. I mean, there's on the entrepreneurial side, it is hard. The things I would say is make sure that your wife loves you a lot. Family is always more important than work. Do not put your. I've seen so many guys, really struggle. But family is really important. Yeah. So just keep that to the front and center of everything that you're doing. And nothing's more important than that. The second thing is, just reach for the stars, and tell a good story and work on that story and the engagement around it, so that you can hit that, right, and just drive fast, take chances, and off you go.
That's some solid advice there. Sometimes I guess we forget why we're doing it in the first place, right? So
Correct.
yeah, with that, it only leaves me to thank Walter for joining us and the audience for tuning in. We hope you guys enjoyed this session as much as I did. And have a great day ahead. Thanks, guys.
Chris, thanks for having me on the show.
Bye bye.
Thanks, Vincent. Cheers. Bye.